In Pakistan, 17-year-old Hina is challenging tradition to complete her education. In Afghanistan, returning refugees like Maa Gul want the government to honour their right to shelter. In Kenya, Rose, who's HIV positive, is championing widows' rights to independence. And in Nigeria, market trader Tematayo is demanding the government acknowledge her worth as a successful businesswoman. Hina, Maa Gul, Rose and Tematayo are just 4 of the millions of women that 179 leaders at the International Conference on Population and Development set out to help 10 years ago in Cairo. They signed agreements linking women's rights to the reduction of poverty. Rights including receiving the same education as boys, playing a full part in economic life, being free from all sexual discrimination and violence, and having basic shelter. In the first of 2 programs on the 10th anniversary of the Cairo Conference, Life visits women in 4 countries to explore what has and hasn't changed.
Women's rights are very closely linked because of what we call the feminization of poverty. The majority of those living in poverty, the majority of those living in refugee camps, the majority who are trying to cope on $1 a day are women, are families headed by women.
10 years after Cairo, there's been huge progress, but it's been uneven. Over half of all countries have adopted laws on women's rights, ratified United Nations conventions, or established national commissions for women. While many countries have introduced laws to prevent violence against women, these are often not enforced. Only 42 countries have increased public spending on schools, and only 16 have increased the number of girls' secondary schools. In Pakistan, despite girls' literacy increasing by 8% in the last 10 years, 1 in 2 girls are still illiterate. Purdah, the practice of secluding women from the gaze of unrelated men, can confine many young women to their homes, uneducated, unable to contribute to their wider community. Hina lives in Kurangi, a poor industrial area of Karachi. The youngest of 5 sisters, she's the only one to continue her studies to college level. But Hina's the exception in a country where less than 1 in 5 girls complete secondary school. Sarina, Hina's mother, was left to provide for her 4 youngest daughters after her husband died 4 years ago. Sarina had never been to school. Although her in-laws pressured her to give up her house and move in with them, she refused, determined to maintain independence for herself and her daughters.
They wanted her to sell the house. They said, "We'll get you a house, we'll look after you." But we thought, if they never helped us while we were here, what would they do there?
At 17, Hina's now in her final years of secondary school. It was her mother who, only too aware of the vulnerability of being uneducated, persuaded Hina to finish her studies.
My mother wanted at least one daughter to have a higher education. Before, to be honest, I wasn't so interested. But when I saw how keen she was, I also felt I must continue, at least up to 12th grade. I wouldn't be able to study further if my father was here. Definitely not at college level. He was very strict about Purdah. He wouldn't even let my sisters go out of the door, only I would come and go. Now it's essential. My sisters weren't that interested in studying. I mean, they knew he wouldn't let them study further, so they thought, why bother?
The sisters support the family by preparing clips for shoes and handbags. They earn about 14 cents for every 450 clips. But economic independence hasn't been easy. Hina's eldest sister, Suhra, works in a factory, a first for this all-female household, but this was frowned upon by her extended family.
They'd say, "Look, Iqbal's daughter is working. His wife is working. She's working in people's homes." I listened and listened. I kept quiet. Then I said,